Hey, welcome to episode 3, the South Island of New Zealand. The theme being Take Back Your Childhood. And I followed that script really well. And when I went on a trip, I took my parents with me, and they were both dead. And I went out to lunch one day by myself, and I had my father on one side of me and my mother on the other side, and we had a talk. And this never happened as a child. We never went out by ourselves to lunch or anything. So my father started saying to me, "Michael, what kind of art are you working on?" Which he never said. I wish he had. And my mom started commenting about, what's going on in my life. And we had this whole discussion. I know it seems like fantasy and maybe even strange to you, but it worked for me. And it was something I never had before. And even though it was imaginary, it was very healing. And then, like I said in the other video, I've forgiven my parents. They were just overwhelmed in life. But it's my responsibility. My emotional health is my responsibility. And even at 75 this week, I get to create the fellowship I crave. I get to have the friends I want. I get to create that love and kindness around me every day. That's my job. And I don't forget that because, it's a process and it's work for me. Sometimes I just want to sit down and, stew in it, and I just don't do that anymore. It's just a bad situation. So, you're going to see a variety of videos here regarding, the South Island, which is the adventure capital of the world. And I just signed up for all of them, and did them all and enjoyed them. It was great, fun. And so that sort of made up for that, teenage years and everything, where just being in a depressed house with people that couldn't cope with anything really, basically. And being in service regarding that. And I wanted to say, to encourage everyone listening to this ever, to put yourself first. It's the hardest thing because I was raised, Catholic, and the concept that we got from the Sisters of Mercy was, I call them the Merciless Sisters, but the concept we got was that you're supposed to be miserable in your life, do everything for everyone, and then die and be happy in heaven. And it's sort of like, I don't think God wants us to be that miserable. And misery is optional, We don't have to do that. I don't have to have a Maserati and gold chains around my neck to be happy. But I do need to put my well-being first. And it's taken me my whole life to learn that. And I do believe that contributed to the deaths and suicides of a lot of my siblings and other relatives. Was they did a lot for other people. They were all in the human services and things, but they didn't know how to do it for themselves. So enough of the heaviness. Let's get to the fun, and you get to watch some of the things that we did. And ciao for now. Brother. The little ones are up top. This is crazy. Okay, more about diagnosis and my diagnosis. And I referred last clip to the discrepancy file. What is that? It's something I made up. It's an area over here in my brain. And what it is that kids on the spectrum, we don't measure up a lot of times. Like, it's like your sister is able to go to the prom and you weren't able to figure it out, or get a driver's license. Or in social situations, you look at your brother and you say, wow, he can talk to everyone. And this is how it developed for me. My brother moved to Las Vegas where I lived, and he went, this is before computers, like ancient times. And he asked what bank to go to. I said, go to my bank. And so it's like one or two tellers there. And so there's really only one. And so he went to the bank, and I've been going to this bank for 5 or 6 years before him. And the next time I went to the bank, the teller says to me, oh, you're Michael, you're Jim's brother, and tells me all about my family. And I started to get really angry, like, well, Jim's got such a big mouth, I wish he would shut up, you know? What is he talking about me for? And I realized, wow, he's here for 1 or 2 weeks, and he knows the teller in the bank. I didn't even know her name, never said, how are you, how's the weather, anything to her for 5 years. So that went in my discrepancy file. But it took many years for enough of those discrepancies to sort of, and after my diagnosis, where I was able to act on them. And when that happened was this. I was going to get a rental car on a van, and I was the only one on it with this 20-something driver who was in Indianapolis, and he was sort of a little bit of a hick with his, Indianapolis Colts hat on. And I'm thinking, oh God, I have this horrible critical mind, very judgmental, and I have to turn it off all the time. So I'm thinking these stupid thoughts, and I said, Michael, why don't you change what you're doing? So I decided to try to talk to him. So I said, hey, what about those Colts? Even though it made me almost throw up, because I did like the New England Patriots at the time. And he starts talking about the Colts, and I'm bored out of my mind. So I switch it to, hey, do you know about any museums in Indianapolis? And he told me about the Museum of the Southwest, which is quite amazing, actually. Southwestern art in Indianapolis, a huge museum, beautiful. So I talked to him about that, and I asked him about bicycles and bicycle paths, and we started talking about that. These are my special interests. And he told me about that, and we had this whole conversation for 10 or 15 minutes. When I stepped off that van, my self-esteem felt higher. It was a strange physical phenomena, and I realized I had done something I could never do. Queenstown is the epicenter for your adventure in New Zealand. And when you get down here, there's all kinds of things you can do. But don't pass up a trip to Milford Sound, because Milford Sound is one of the most extraordinary areas. When we were going to go, we looked at the forecast, said, oh, it's going to rain all day. And the people said, oh, you're really lucky. I said, why? And they said, because there's like hundreds of waterfalls. It's like one of the places in the world that has the most rainfall ever. It just is all the time, every day. And the mountains are all green, but they have waterfalls coming off them all over the place. It's quite dramatic and really an amazing spot. So don't pass up Milford Sound. You can't really stay out there. There's really no accommodation. So it's a one-day bus trip. You take a couple hours to get there and a couple hours to get back. The scenery is pretty nice, so I wouldn't pass that up. And I would say in Queenstown, it's a little bit of a tourist trap with the stores and stuff. And basically in New Zealand, the only place you're going to find anything of value to buy is in the donation stores, you know, the charity stores, like they have them in Ireland and England. Little foundations that have different groups. And those, you can find some really cool things. I bought a lot of things. There's actually a store that was all French, everything from France. I don't know how, but right in the middle of New Zealand. So go to the charity stores if you want to look for used items that are really cool to take home. And everything else you're going to pay a lot more for because it's all imported all the way to New Zealand from everywhere. So that's my tips regarding this, and enjoy. This is the Stratosphere Buffet. All the way down there. Down further. Down there too, and all of this. All over the place. And you get to look at that while you're up here. Okay, these are the wellness tips and general things to make your life better for this episode. One is to have a donation box and put something in it every day. Get rid of something out of your house. Practice learning a new language. It really keeps your mind stimulated. I'm on 140 days in a row in French and 7 years in Spanish. And comb your hair with your non-dominant hand. Just try doing that in the morning. And sleep on the other side of the bed. Some of us get used to sleeping on one side, switch sides, and sleep on the other side. And these are all things that change your routine, help keep your mind stimulated, and your mind and your body growing and learning. Ciao.